My first completed book of creative writing is a book of short stories. They're interconnected stories, and it's fiction, but it mostly revolves around my childhood in Hawaii. And it took me a long time, not just to write the book, but to decide that I wanted to write this particular book. Because for a long time I had absolutely no interest in writing about my family and my childhood, and I wanted to stay away from that. And now I realize that's probably a good thing. When I was an undergraduate at Berkeley, I took a class from the writer Maxine Hong Kingston, and she told us that a writer needs 20 years between now and the subject you're writing about. And at the time I was 21 years old, and I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I have to write about when I was a baby, and I can only write about now when I'm 40. At that time it seemed incredibly old. I realize better now, now that it's coming up. But she was right. She was exaggerating a little bit for effect, but she was right. I think that it's necessary to get that kind of distance in writing. And I have it now. I still care about the events that happened to me back then, but I'm also able to craft it as fiction because I have that necessary distance, that I can think about it as a story I want to tell, not my story that I have to tell a certain way. So my stories are crafted, they are creations, but they're also truth, and they're based on what is true. And as I struggled through writing it, I found that I was thinking of more and more stories to write. A lot of my friends said, forget about stories, write a novel. But the only way that I could get it done was to craft it as stories. And even though a novel may be easier to tell, or to sell rather, I found that I could think about these stories as individual entities more easily. And that worked for me, and I think that's also another important element of craft, because to think of a novel as a very long short story, or to think we can string together stories like a novel is a little bit ridiculous. I think they're very different. That would be like saying string a bunch of haiku together to make a epic poem. And I love to read short stories, and the craft of short stories is different from novels, so it's pretty amazing to me that I ended up doing this as my first book.